So, the one and only Pinoy pop royalty, Sarah Geronimo, and the kings of PPop, SB19, just dropped a new track, and of course, we're diving right in. What you're about to see is our own take on the song, told through an incredible murder mystery style narrative paired with very timely lyrics. And of course, we already knew this collab was going to be musically powerful. But more than that, it delivers a message that speaks about a serious issue that our society is facing right now. So here's what we're gonna do. We'll head over to the party scene, where each character starts to reveal themselves one by one, then loop back to the police interrogation scene to tie it all together. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're kicking things off with Victor. Looking at the lyrics, he comes across as the one stirring the pot. So we interpret the character of Victor as the quote-unquote source of fake news or misinformation. In this interpretation, Victor is not just a person, but a symbolic representation of the origin and dissemination of fake news, lies, and manipulative narratives. His actions embody the tactics and impact of misinformation. The house party in this narrative can be seen as the information space, or let's say the internet or social media more specifically, where these false information are spread. In this scene, we see Rose checking up on Lily. For us, this represents genuine concern and attempts at truth, or trying to confirm a situation. Lily says she'll be all right, which could symbolize complacency or even overconfidence in one's ability to discern truth, which often leads to vulnerability to misinformation. Lily also ignores her ex in this scene. And Pablo here could represent the voice of warning, the inconvenient truth teller, or the fact checker from a past, perhaps more trustworthy, source. Lily ignoring Pablo signifies the dismissal of credible warnings or credible sources of information due to pre-existing biases or disinterest. Next, we see Victor, or what we see as the source of fake news, coming in with Josh. And sources of fake news often operates with an enabler, right? Someone who facilitates the spread, or, at least people who don't actively oppose it. We also see Josh telling Victor to relax, so whatever happened in the past won't happen again. Josh could represent the internal or external factors that try to prevent this repetition of past mistakes in information dissemination. Victor shrugging Josh off shows the unwillingness of the fake news source to be constrained by ethics or past failures. In this scene, we have Victor again, and he actively draws Lily away from Pablo, or again, who we see as the representation of a credible source. Essentially, Lily could be a symbolism for people who are susceptible, or, let's say, easily manipulated by fake news and often ignores warnings from credible sources, which in this case is Pablo. And yeah, Victor lures Lily away from Pablo and into an environment where truth is manipulated for gain. The gambling area could symbolize the stakes involved in belief, where facts are played with, and outcomes are determined by deception, not truth. Next, we have Ken as the quote-unquote master of the game. Ken in this interpretation could represent the established rules of logic, discourse, or the pursuit of genuine knowledge. Ken could also represent fact-based news outlets, the ones who are good at playing the game or reporting news using their first-hand knowledge, experience, and skills. Josh then gives Ken a new pack of cards, right? And this is a crucial moment. The new pack of cards could symbolize manipulated data, selectively presented facts, or even outright fabricated evidence. The new pack of cards is essentially the fake news that looks legitimate, something that at first glance looks real. Victor then goes all in, Ken calls, and Victor wins everything. Now, this could signify the triumph of misinformation over truth and value. Victor uses the manipulated data, or the new pack of cards, right? To win not just the game, but also valuable assets, symbolized by the watch and necklace. And those material things could represent someone's reputation, power, or even public trust, all gained through deceit. In the next scene, we see Victor touching and eventually smashing valuable objects. This could represent the reckless disregard for valuable institutions, cultural heritage, or the delicate fabric of society. The expensive decorations, or what we see here, the electric guitar that Stell reveals as something that possibly his father passed down to him, something really valuable and holds sentimental value. And they could be symbolic of things that hold historical value, culture, or even factual information not found on the internet yet. Stell could be a representation of the traditional gatekeepers, institutions, or authorities who are quote-unquote anxious about preserving order and truth, but are ultimately sort of powerless to stop the destructive force of misinformation. They scream warnings, you know what I mean, but ultimately cannot prevent the damage. The smashing of the guitar could also be a representation of the destruction of harmony, truth, or shared reality by blatant, unprovoked acts of informational vandalism. Victor then teases Justin here, and this is kind of like a direct representation of spreading libelous fake news or rumors designed to discredit and humiliate. It targets personal reputation and creates doubt, especially for those unfamiliar with a figure or person. Justin's defense and desperate plea to correct what Victor is telling other people about him is like the voice of factual correction, the attempt to provide the truth against a damaging narrative. His fragile nature highlights how easily personal truths can be attacked and distorted by misinformation. Even worse if the misinformation comes from an institution or someone who is loud and calls for so much attention. Next, we see Victor seemingly trying to apologize to Justin by offering him a liquor-laced soda, right? And Josh sees and realizes this, so he then gets mad at Victor. The lacing of the soda could symbolize insidiously poisoning the public discourse or individual understanding with deceptive content. The soda is the seemingly harmless, factual information, while the liquor is the hidden agenda, the intoxicating lie, or the manipulative element designed to impair our judgment. Justin also seems like he potentially has a liquor allergy, as we can see him constantly scratching his neck, but we could be off about that. Just a disclaimer. But yeah, this potential allergy to liquor could be the vulnerability of certain segments of the population to misinformation's toxic effects. And Josh gets mad, right? Josh, the enabler, draws a line here. It means that even those who once facilitated misinformation might recoil when the lies become too dangerous or target the truly vulnerable, threatening real-world harm. Then we see Pablo approaching Lily. Pablo warns her about Victor, but Lily refuses to believe and just shrugs off what Pablo said. Victor then comes to Lily and he tries to woo her. Then, when he saw his chance, he takes Lily upstairs. Now, Pablo's warning in this scene is like, again, the credible source trying to warn the vulnerable public against the dangers of being drawn into Victor's fake news world. Lily being lured and her continued susceptibility to attractive narratives, or Victor, despite warnings, especially when intoxicated by prior exposure to false information or biases, symbolizes how hard it can be to move past false information, especially when we are so drawn to the source we think is reliable. Lily being taken upstairs could symbolize being taken to a less transparent, more private, and thus more easily manipulated information space. In the next scene, we see Rose getting worried, and she eventually decides to enter the house. Rose's instinct might be a representation of the activist for truth, the vigilant fact checker, or the investigative journalist. Her something doesn't sit right feeling is the intuition that truth is being violated or manipulated. Rose also sees Pablo as she enters the house, and Pablo tries to get Rose's attention and asks for help about something. and we believe he was trying to help Lily, which he still believed was in the other room, but didn't see that Victor had already taken Lily upstairs. Now we see this as Rose being the aggressive fact-checker or journalist, while Pablo is kind of like the more conservative, maybe a little bit scared newbie that tries to ask for help from the veteran. However, while he was trying to get Rose's attention, Rose was already taking action as she searched the rooms for Lily. When Rose eventually found Lily with Victor, it could symbolize a vulnerable person or group of people being taken advantage of the truth and the incapacitation of public understanding. Lily could mean the public has been rendered unable to discern reality. Rose represents the urgent and undeniable desire to expose this abuse of information. We also see Pablo going back to the previous room where he last saw Lily. He quickly realizes that she's not there anymore and heads upstairs to follow Rose. He sees Rose carrying Lily out of the room, and Rose screams at Pablo out of anger and probably frustration. Next, Rose and Pablo talk about 2 minutes. Rose wishes she had come, quote, 2 minutes earlier, and Pablo needing, quote, just 2 minutes of someone's time. Now, the 2 minutes here we interpret as the critical time window for intervention against misinformation. Pablo's 2 minutes is like the importance of effective early intervention. He had a plan, a way to reveal the truth, but couldn't execute it fast enough. Rose's 2 minutes is like the regret that truth wasn't revealed or action wasn't taken before the ultimate damage was done. It underscores the urgency of addressing fake news before it leads to irreversible consequences. Rose calling Pablo quote-unquote useless is kind of like Pablo as the newbie or even the traditional fact-checker trying to catch up, but is too slow and too ineffective in this critical moment. Rose's useless outburst reflects the frustration with slow traditional methods of combating misinformation when direct, urgent action is needed. And it also shows how in just 2 minutes, significant damage can be done, thanks to how fast news can spread, especially on the internet and on social media. Victor then walks while the 6 characters follow and confront him. This is the final reckoning for the source of fake news. The various societal elements, those cheated, those whose values were destroyed, those personally attacked, those who enabled but now rebel, those who tried to warn, finally converge. Josh's confrontation is the turning point where even the enablers reject the misinformation source. Victor's rebuttal, for us, represents how fake news outlets play the victim, blaming others for their own failures, or like a bad friend leaving him. The other characters confronting Victor show how those who were victims of fake news eventually learn to fight back or stand up for themselves, eventually, slowly but surely destroying Victor, or the fake news source. We also see Ken grabbing a brick and hitting Victor with it. We see this as the violent backlash from a society that has reached its breaking point with lies and manipulation. The punching from the other characters represents the collective rejection and anger. Ken's brick could symbolize the truth or the consequences of the cheated system, finally striking down the purveyor of lies. The broken brick could also signify the fundamental breakdown of the lie-based structure. Now let's circle back to the beginning and actually the ending of the music film. Victor's actions embody the tactics and impact of misinformation. The house party can be seen as the information space where these narratives are spread. The beginning and closing scenes symbolize the violent consequences when a society built on or plagued by fake news eventually collapses or is confronted. The surrounding characters are the various stakeholders or segments of society who are affected by misinformation or fake news, and ultimately confront the source of misinformation. The representation of Victor's demise here is the collapse or the discrediting of the misinformation source. The police lineup and interrogation, along with all 6 characters admitting to quote-unquote doing the deed, represent a collective acknowledgement that everyone played a part in either spreading, believing, ignoring, or failing to combat the fake news that led to the collapse. It's acknowledging the shared responsibility in a misinformed society, where truth is so obscured that no single culprit can be identified, but everyone, directly or indirectly, contributed to Victor. Everyone did it.